Hey folks, so welcome back to Mental Health Month and our themed series of videos on mental health. This week we're talking about depression. Now, depression is a disorder that I've personally suffered with, as we were talking about last week with eating disorders. So what I'm going to do to begin this video is I'm going to outline some of my personal experience and perspective on depression. Then we'll talk about some of the underlying causes and issues that are common to depression sufferers. And then, again as we did last week, we'll talk about what to do if you're a carer or someone who wants to support someone who has depression or someone that you suspect may have depression. So let's kick in and I'll outline how I came to be depressed. For me, it was about a calendar year that I suffered with depression. It was January to December, pretty much on the dot. And in the lead up to my depression, I had gotten caught up in this hedonistic treadmill. I was going out partying and drinking, and I was abusing caffeine, I was eating badly, I was looking for one-night stands all the time, and new music and new gigs and new parties and new groups of people, and it was all just buzz, and I was always chasing these short-term hits of pleasure. And for a while, this made me feel really good because I kept on getting those hits, and I was able to find new experiences and continue to sustain those hits. But eventually, my body gave up on me. All that abuse that I was putting it through with the alcohol, the caffeine, some other naughty stuff, and I developed this full body rash. I couldn't sleep anymore. I developed insomnia, and I just really lost my purpose and my direction in life. I was just living for these short-term hits of pleasure, and I fell into depression. And for me, one of the characteristics of that depression was this insomnia. I was feeling so tired every day, and I was going to bed earlier and earlier, but I would wake up 15, 20 times a night, and I'd wake up at almost the exact same time, anywhere between 20 past 7 and 20 to 8, and I would feel like I wasn't rested at all, that I hadn't slept at all. And then from this poor sleep, the rest of my day was just full of fatigue. I felt I was just trudging through life. Everyday tasks and activities were just so hard to do. And I'm sure for anyone out there who's watching this who also suffers from depression, you'll recognize that fatigue, how it's just an everyday struggle to go through life and to do the motions. And then alongside this fatigue, I also had a loss in pleasure of all the things that used to bring me joy. The going on the nights out and spending time with friends and watching TV, reading books, anything that I used to enjoy in life just didn't do anything for me anymore. It was like I'd just become this brick wall, and anything pleasurable or positive just bounced off in life, and I felt I was just trapped in this emotionless void. And I'd be going through these days and I'd be trudging through, and I was saying to myself, just get to the end of the day, and then in the evening you can sit down, you can chill out, you can watch some TV. But I would get bored of what I was watching within about 10 minutes. I couldn't even get through a 20-minute episode of a TV show without feeling just boredom and inertia towards it. Nothing in life brought me pleasure anymore. And then that third component, as I alluded to, was just a loss of purpose and drive in life. And when you lose your purpose in life, you lose your connection with life. And for many people with depression, this leads to suicidal ideation and sometimes even suicidal action. And I wouldn't say that I felt suicidal necessarily, but I would be going through those difficult nights of sleep and waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep. But sometimes when I fell into sleep, I would have a dream, and I would dream of a place that I had good times in, of people I had good times with. and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd just feel this despair that I'd woken up, and I'd be lying there wondering if it was worth summoning the energy to face another emotionless, fatiguing, unfulfilling day. And there was even some times when I woke up from these dreams and I wished I hadn't woken up at all. And I wouldn't necessarily describe this as a suicidal feeling, but it was certainly this desire to disconnect from life and this despair at what life was giving me. And again, I'm sure that some of the people watching this who are suffering from depression recognize this feeling, and indeed you maybe are feeling suicidal. And what I would say to you guys is that I did come through that depression. I did grow from that darkness in something better and higher than I ever thought I could be. And I'll tell you something right now. In that period of depression, I did not take antidepressants. I was absolutely determined that drugs were not the answer. I saw that I'd got myself into this mess, and there was something within me that just knew that I could get myself out of the mess. And it wasn't necessarily even a hope or a belief, because at times I didn't really feel hopeful and I didn't have a belief that things were going to get better. But there was something in me that kept me going, that kept me trudging through every single day, no matter how fatiguing it was, no matter how emotionless it was. And that's what I'd say to you guys watching this, is have that belief, have that strength. Just tell yourself that things are going to get better, and put that somewhere deep inside you and let it nestle and grow and keep on going through every day. And that light at the end of the tunnel does come. There is something there. There is a growth out of this darkness that you're experiencing. So that's my personal account of my experiences of depression. Let's now look at some of the key underlying causes and contributors to depression, and what really differentiates a person with depression from someone without depression. So one of the first key factors in this is that one of the key differences between depressed people and non-depressed people isn't actually that depressed people can't feel happiness. In fact, there is no difference between the levels of happiness that depressed and non-depressed people can feel. The key difference is that people with depression cannot sustain positive emotions. You see, research from psychology and neuroscience is finding that people with depression have damaged circuitry in their brains, which prevents them from sustaining positive emotions. So let's imagine that you have a happiness plug, and it's got the 3 plugs as you would have in a normal socket. So someone who is non-depressed has all these 3 plugs and they're working at full operation. So anytime positive charge comes in, they get the full connection, the full energy of that positive experience. Depressed people, on the other hand, they only have 1 prong. So they don't get the full charge, and sometimes that connection, it switches on and off, it loses connection, and it bursts and then it goes away, and it bursts and then it goes away. So they do not get the full charge of the positive experience going through into them. So that is one of the key differences between depressed people and non-depressed people. Second key component of depression is that people with depression are often very focused in the past. So there'll be some life experience or some trigger in that person's past that has catalyzed that depression. Now, we all have different genetic predispositions to depression, but there are also environmental factors that can awaken this disposition. So often, a person with depression will focus on that life event, that trigger, and all of the events that have followed that up until the present moment. And what they will do, they will see that they have negativity in the past, and then they have suffering here in the present. They're in that emotionless void. They've lost purpose, they've lost momentum in life, which then leads into the fallacy of believing that their future is going to follow the exact same course. Now, people without depression can make the distinction between those time periods. They can see that, the past has been tough. I'm having to work hard in the present. But I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I know I can overcome this hardship. I know I can complete this challenge. Depressed people cannot summon that belief or that expectation. And thus, they live in their past and present experiences, and they are unable to make the distinction that there's going to be any change in the future. And thus that acts as a reinforcer for their depression. They never break that cycle of realizing that one of these days, things might change. Component number 3 of depression is that people with depression have lost their purpose. As I alluded to in my own life story, purpose is the life fuel. It is the essence of the human condition. Purpose is what gives us the drive and enthusiasm to keep on going through life, to have hopes, to have dreams, to set goals, to have the understanding that we can work through everyday tasks and challenges and activities. Depressed people have lost that purpose. If you imagine your car, if you don't put fuel into your car, it's not going to work properly, it's not going to function, you're not going to have all of the available features that a car offers you. That is what it's like with depression. You lose that purpose and you lose that fuel, and thus you stop operating properly. And this is why many people with depression can feel those suicidal thoughts and indeed have suicidal actions. Because purpose is such an integral part of life. When you lose your purpose, you lose your connection with life. And thus, you see no reason to keep on going through it. So, those are 3 key components of what contributes to depression. What I want to run over now is, if you're someone who wants to help and support someone with depression, how can you do so? So my first tip would be to give them social gratification. I know in my own experience of depression, it was so lonely and isolating. And I think that would be the same for anyone else watching this who has depression. And just knowing that there's people out there who think about you and care about you can do wonders. So what I'd say to those of you who want to help is invite people with depression to stuff. Invite them to events and experiences and activities. And you're going to get a lot of rejections because, again, from my personal experience, I know that I just wanted to hide away from the world and put up the barriers and escape from things a lot of the time. But even if you get those rejections, keep on inviting them to things. Keep on showing that care and thought. And that can do so much for someone who's in that dark place. And then on that note, seek to expand upon this by praising them, by complimenting them. If you know they're engaged in an activity or a pursuit of some kind, then praise them on their progress and compliment them on their skills. Again, with depression, it can be so hard to just get through everyday tasks and challenges and activities, and it's such a level of suffering that people who've never had depression just won't really understand. So any activity that someone with depression achieves is a noble achievement, and it's worthy of praise because it takes so much effort and energy and willpower through which to get through that. So if they're engaging in anything worthwhile, then praise them and compliment them on it, because that will help them with their confidence and their self-efficacy, and that will help restore some of those feelings of purpose which are so lacking in people with depression. Then finally, kind of as a balance to these two things, is to give people with depression their own time and space. As I said, those of us with depression sometimes want to hide away from the world. Sometimes the day has just been too much for us, and there's been so much that's fatigued us and worn us out that we just want to hide away from the world and take time to recover what energy we have and recover what strength that we have. And as someone looking to help someone, love that and respect that. and give them that time and space, because one of the ways that I got through my depression was that it gave me the opportunity for a lot of self-reflection and evaluation. I had a lot of underlying issues in my life that I really need to start addressing and sorting out. And ironically, depression was actually one of the best tools in helping me do this, because it made my life so unbearable to live through. I really had to address these issues. There was no hiding from them anymore. These were making my life misery. And it was in my own time and space that I started to find the answers. So one of the best things you can do for someone with depression is to give them that time and space, because it allows them to regain their energy, regain their willpower, but also allows them to start finding a solution out of their current crisis. So I hope this video has really helped to raise some awareness and raise some understanding of depression, because depression right now, along with anxiety, is skyrocketing in prevalence. It's becoming a huge issue. It's so much bigger than it used to be in the past. One of the reasons I think this is happening is because of the way our current fabric of society is. Now, it would take a whole other video to start to elaborate on this. Essentially, the way that our human race is progressing right now, we have all these new strains and stresses and pressures that we don't fully know how to deal with yet. And thus, a lot of depression and anxiety is starting to come out of these new pressures and strains. And the only way that we're going to grow as humans is to start to understand and appreciate these particular struggles. And thus we can take that next step of growth into the next stage of progression for the human race. So you achieving some understanding and awareness right now isn't just going to help you, isn't just going to help the people around you, but it's going to start this movement of helping the entire human race. And for those of you who are watching this, who are suffering from depression, I also have a message for you. I hope that I can show that there is light at the end of the tunnel, there is hope, there is a growth journey where you can come out of this darkness, and it may not seem like it right now, but it's going to teach you some really valuable lessons, and it's going to give you some strength that other people can't have because they've never been through the struggles that you've been through. So take that hope, take that belief, and as I said earlier in the video, just know that things can get better. You might not see any evidence for that, you might not have any belief that that's going to happen, but just have someone who's been through that tell you that. And I hope that that will give you some kind of fuel that is going to help you to overcome this particular challenge that you're facing. And this is what we're really going to hone in on in the next video, where I will start to outline tactics and strategies that you can use to address and combat some of these key issues and underlying causes of depression, and really start to take your life back and to find joy and meaning again, and to come out of that darkness and find something higher and better for yourself that you don't know that you can achieve right now. It's really a fantastic transformation, and it's easy for me to say at the other side of that, but it's possible for you. It really is. You have that inner strength, you have that inner drive. You just don't know it yet. So guys, I hope you'll join me for the next video where we will outline those strategies through which you can address depression. But until then, love inwardly and shine outwardly. David.